NBA preseason predictions. Western Conference standings. OKC was predicted to finish with the third worst record in the conference. 538.com, which gives more accurate predictions based on data and analytics. They gave the Thunder only a 50% chance to make the playoffs before the season started. That percentage has now risen to over 80%. Before the season started, everyone was saying, "Oh my god, the Thunder are terrible now. They're in full rebuild mode and it's gonna take a long time before they make it back to the playoffs." Very few people even gave them a chance, but here they are, in the midst of the playoff race and holding on to their spot. In the month of December, the Thunder recorded the best record in the Western Conference, going 11-4, the majority of their wins being against the rest of the Western Conference, and other playoff contenders too. There's no doubt in my mind that the Thunder have been crushing expectations. They went from losing Westbrook and George, two perennial stars, to Danilo Gallinari, a 21-year-old Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and an aging Chris Paul. Many thought Paul's career would continue to regress, but I'm proud to say that I did not think that. Before the season, I did think that he'd have a bounce-back year in OKC, and that's what's happening. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, let's talk about the Thunder. Why are they so good? Or why are they playing better than expected? Did it expose the problems the previous teams had while being led by Westbrook and George? First, the main reason for that is, the players themselves are exceeding expectations, especially Shai. When the team completed both of their blockbuster trades, everyone thought Shai would be the backup point guard to Paul. But instead, Billy Donovan inserted him into the starting lineup from day one as the starting shooting guard. Shai flourished in this role and he's having a breakout season. With OKC's balanced offense, Shai has been leading the team in scoring, averaging around 20 points a game. Playing off the ball alongside a seasoned point guard like Paul has truly elevated his game. Additionally, we gotta give credit to Danilo Gallinari as well. Gallo has never been a bad player, let's get that out of the way, at any point of his career. The problem is, he gets injured way too often, to the point where it's normal to see him miss like 30 games a season. He even suffered a torn ACL back in 2013, which took him a very long time to recover from. After coming off a great season with the Clippers, now he's continuing where he left off. Now, he's the starting power forward, and he has accepted the role of being a stretch four, attempting around 7 threes a game, the most of his entire career. Once known as a savvy scorer who's adept at drawing fouls, he's now become more of a catch-and-shoot player. That's perfectly fine though, as that's what the team needs. Of course, the third acquisition, Chris Paul. His previous season in Houston was one of the worst of his career, as he averaged a career low in points, a career low in field goal percentage, and the injury bug continued to hamper him. But in OKC, he's bounced back and is now the leader of a young team who looks up to him. Fun fact, Paul did play in OKC before. In the 2005-06 season, his rookie year, the New Orleans Hornets temporarily relocated to Oklahoma City following the disaster of Hurricane Katrina. Paul was the first ever point guard that OKC cheered for, and he still has many fans who support him. I think that's a huge reason why he wanted to stay, and did not negotiate a buyout or request a trade like we thought he would. He's familiar with the city and likes to play there. In addition to these new players balling out, Dennis Schroeder has been absolutely killing it. The floor has opened up a lot as OKC now has better three-point shooters, and that's partly why he's been playing so well. Nerlens Noel, who I mentioned in a recent video about how he's not living up to being a top prospect, that's still true, but he's been playing much better. His pick-and-roll game has improved and he's found a niche within the offense. The rest of the team has also complemented their playmakers incredibly well. Next up, we gotta talk about the complete overhaul of OKC's game plan. One of the biggest changes was, unsurprisingly, their offensive rebounding. For the past 5 seasons, OKC has been number 1 in the entire league in offensive rebounds per game. Thunder players would constantly crash the glass looking for the rebound, but unfortunately, it sometimes would hurt them too. My theory is that it would lead to Thunder players not getting back on defense on time, or not trying hard enough to contest shots because all they care about is getting the rebound. And yes, I am talking about Westbrook as an example. but also the entire team before too. But now, in the 2019-20 season so far, they're basically last in offensive rebounds. That's a drastic change. However, defensively, they're only in the middle of the pack, which was worse compared to previous seasons, so I don't think my theory was correct. But to be honest, I think the drop-off on defense is mainly due to them losing some good defensive players like George and Jeremy Grant, and also the sample size is still quite small. I think they will get better as the season goes along. Another change in their playstyle is their willingness to play small ball much more frequently. In the past, they've ran a traditional lineup more or less, but now, from 2 through 4, their players are playing at different positions than they're used to. They're defending different positions and they're playing against different defenders. Despite losing 2 athletic freaks, they're still an extremely athletic team and they're just playing to their strengths by going small. Sometimes they even run a 3-point guard lineup at the end of games, with CP3, Shea, and Schroeder. But even after going small, the pace of the team has drastically decreased compared to the previous seasons, which is not something you'd expect out of a team that's playing small ball. However, this is mainly attributed to Chris Paul, who's always been more reserved and calculated compared to the fiery, often erratic Russell Westbrook. Paul has always been a mastermind at operating in the half court, while Westbrook excels in transition. That's why the pace now is so different. This change of pace into a slower, more grinded out offense suits Paul's skill set much better, and the results have been pretty good. In the midst of all this, one thing that fans are not talking about as much is Billy Donovan. He was named the head coach in 2016, but even then, it never felt like he was in total control of what he wanted to do. Under the Russell Westbrook era, it seemed like Donovan took a lot of blame for not implementing any kind of offense. But in reality, it was more because Westbrook was the offense, and he was given free rein to do whatever he wanted to do. When questioned about it in the past, he's always said that he has his players' backs and he trusts them. Which is great to hear, but it resulted in 3 straight first-round exits. GM Sam Presti also got a lot of flack for not firing him. In fact, shortly after trading away Westbrook and George over the summer, a Thunder fan even left some threatening voicemails for Presti and Donovan, some of which were death threats. That's kinda insane. Following their 2019 playoff loss to the Blazers, Presti was questioned about the future of Coach Donovan. He replied with, quote, "We anticipate Billy being back. If anything would have changed on that, we would have let you know. For me personally, I always think that it's important to give the coach of the team time to reflect and decompress. These jobs are really hard." And with a new wind behind him, Donovan has been looking much better than before, overhauling their game plan and adjusting it to fit in their new pieces. In the month of December, he was also named the Western Conference Coach of the Month. In December, the Thunder managed to make 3 different comebacks to win the games after being down by at least 18 points. This was also the first time of his entire coaching tenure where he won the Coach of the Month award. If you think about it, this Thunder rebuild, or if you even want to call it a rebuild, is quite unique in its own way. When most people think of a rebuild, they think of a team dropping to the bottom of the standings for a few years and hoping to luck out in the draft. But the Thunder have been going at it differently. Funny enough, it's somewhat comparable to the Clippers rebuild a few years ago. After they traded away Paul and Griffin, they were expected to drop off. But instead, they got a massive haul in return and those pieces made them super competitive. It's similar to what we see in OKC now. They got back Shea, who's proven to be a stud, great veterans, and potentially 6 first-round picks from 2020 to 2022. Well, depending on if their pick protections work in their favor. They've got a great future ahead. And while we've criticized Presti's move in the past, it's pretty obvious that OKC came out of this summer looking much better than expected. Anyway, that's all folks. That sums up how the Thunder were brushed off prior to the season, but now they'll most likely make the playoffs. Now, if that does happen, can they make a deep playoff run? Probably not, but they weren't supposed to in the first place. This rebuild has been a pleasant surprise and they'll be back in contention much sooner than people realize. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.